Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Panenka podcast. We're finally back. We're finally here, and I'm joined by Lewis and Jacob today. And today we're jumping into our championship table predictions. Basically, we're going to give you the teams in alphabetical order. We're going to say where we think they're going to finish and talk a little bit about them. So we're going to start off with Bournemouth. Jacob, where have you got Bournemouth finishing?
Right, getting into it already, nice and quick. Bournemouth, I've got finishing just inside the playoffs. I think they'll finish fifth. I think the main thing with Bournemouth is whether they keep their key players or not, whether they keep that core of the team. Obviously, they've still got Wilson at the minute. It looks like he'll be off. I think they've still got Brooks at the minute, but then he's been linked with moves away. So it's one of them. I think if they are to sell, then I'd be surprised if they didn't. If they didn't replace quickly. And obviously they've got Jason Tindall now as a manager, don't they? So I'm not sure what to think of Bournemouth, but I think they do have a lot of squad depth. I think they're a good team. So I'd be surprised if they finish below the top six. So I've got them in at fifth place.
Yeah, I might as well jump in here because I've also got Bournemouth finishing fifth. I just don't think they've lost the talent to finish so outside of the playoffs. I know they've lost Ramsdale, they've lost, Nathan Ake, but then again, they've got 40 million for Nathan Ake. That's 40 million that they can spend around the squad, They've lost people like Ryan Fraser, who, may have impacted the changing room in a negative way. I do think Bournemouth aren't going to start well. I think Bournemouth are more going to be a team that pick up towards the end and then sneak in. I don't think they're going to be like a secured playoff team. But I do see Bournemouth replacing well. They always did have good transfer policy until obviously Solanke and Ibe. But besides that, yeah, I can't see Bournemouth not finishing in the playoffs.
I've actually got Bournemouth finishing 11th. I think they've lost a lot of their older players, like Charlie Daniels, Andrew Sermon, people like that, Simon Francis as well, who were probably very key in the dressing room. And then combine that with the loss of the manager Eddie Howe, and the fact that Wilson's probably going to go, Ake and Ramsdale have already gone, like Lerman's probably going to go to King, combine, and they haven't brought anyone in as of yet either. So I think when the season starts, we could be looking at Bournemouth not making signing at all, having a manager who's not been a manager, he's just been an assistant manager before, and losing all those players as well. I can't see them mounting a playoff or promotion challenge at all this season, but I think the quality in their squad mean that they won't finish bottom half. I think they'll just finish mid-table. So I've gone 11th.
Yeah, it could go two ways for Bournemouth, but if we move on, I believe the next team we have is Barnsley, and I've got Barnsley finishing 16th. I don't really see Barnsley climbing up the table. They have a young squad that could develop a lot, and looking at the transfers, they brought quite a lot of people up from the under-18s and the under-23s. It seems like Barnsley prefer to use their academy as depth instead of going out into the market, and that can work two ways. But we've seen the young players from Barnsley really help in their survival last year. The new manager was really able to turn things around. I don't really see Barnsley being in the relegation hunt at all. I see them being firmly away from it, but also being around that, around that 14th to 17th range. I can't really expect big things, but I expect improvement from last year, especially.
I mean, I've got Barnsley for 20th. I think they were lucky last year to stay up. Obviously, without Wigan's point deduction, they'd be a League One club right now. And I haven't seen much improvement in their team. I don't think they've. Off the top of my head, they haven't really made any notable signings that I really think are going to make a difference in terms of where they finish in the league. So yeah, I think Barnsley are going to get quite lucky due to a points deduction for Sheffield Wednesday. So that's a little bit of a hint to where I've put them. But I don't know. I don't think that Barnsley quite have that factor yet. I think they'll be looking to build on last season. They'll take it as a good opportunity to grow and to move up the table, like you predict them in 16th. It's a reasonable goal for a team like Barnsley to reach, but I personally think they're going to scrape it again, as they did last season. But I do quite like Barnsley, so I'd happily be proved wrong.
Yeah, I put Barnsley in 13th actually. I think they'll really build on last season because Gerhard Struber has pretty much changed that team around. They've got a young squad which has got a lot of potential. So in the next couple of years, if they keep the majority of that squad, you never know, they could be pushing for promotion with that squad. They haven't really brought in. They've got rid of a lot of the players that they didn't really use, but they brought in Dominic Fraser, who I think could be really good as a winger from Lask. And obviously, Lask got very far in the Europa League, so kind of just off of that alone, a lot of pedigree. Bringing Ludovic back as well. I don't know. I have a feeling that they'll want to build on last season, and we saw at the end of last season, like they had Leeds, Nottingham Forest, and Brentford in their last 3 games, and they managed to beat Nottingham Forest and Brentford, and arguably should have beaten Leeds. Like they've got the quality, and they can definitely push up. But I don't think playoffs is out of the reach, but is out. I think it's out of the reach. But relegation, I don't see them being anywhere near it. So I put 13.
Right, so moving on to the next club is probably one of the more interesting clubs to talk about. It's Birmingham. From the beginning of them selling Jude Bellingham and retiring his shirt to all the signings they've made to bringing Karanka in. I feel like Birmingham are definitely going to improve. Karanka's a solid manager. Has done well with teams like Middlesbrough before, and I've got them finishing 14th. I don't think it's going to be a huge improvement right away. I think it's going to be something that might take, a year or two for the team to actually mould. They've brought in great signings like, I think it's John Torrell, you pronounce it, or Jean,
yeah.
I don't know how you pronounce it. He wasn't the best at Hull, but I can see him having a massive improvement when he has more people to create for. George Friend, always reliable in the Championship. Adam Clayton, who I believe you worked with at Middlesbrough. And then, the big signing I see, Jonathan Lecco, I see him really doing well under Karanka. And I see this or next season being the season that he breaks out. But yeah, I can't see Birmingham anywhere close to relegation. And to be honest, between like 9th and 15th, I see it being really close for every team, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I've got Birmingham in 16th. I think Karanka is a decent manager. I think he struggled at Forest. Struggle was harsh. I don't think he quite had the time he needed at Forest. I think he did a very good job at Middlesbrough. That was well documented. And I don't see any reason why he's not going to do a similar good job with Birmingham. But I mean, Birmingham were poor last year. I think Bellingham helped carry the team a little bit in terms of general performances and in terms of like the mood around the ground and around the stadium. Having that young prospect that everyone's excited about probably made it a little bit less doom and gloom than it might have been. But no, I don't see them improving too much. I think they still could have been relegated on the last day of the season that's just gone. So I think they'll improve on that. I think Karanka's a good appointment. I think given time, he'll probably start getting them higher up the league. But for now, I think, mid-table, low end of the mid-table. And I think that is thanks to Karanka. The signings have made a solid Championship signings, but I don't think any of them are in their prime anymore. But no, I think it's trusty signings, trusty manager, and I don't think Birmingham have anything to worry about, but I'd be surprised if they have anything to look forward to as well, to be honest.
Yeah, like Callum, I've also got Birmingham 14th as well. I don't think they'll be struggling as much as they were or they have been the last few years. I think they will push up under Karanka. Like Jacob said, I think it is a decent appointment. He has got pedigree in the Championship. You know what he's like. I think bringing Adam Clayton and George Friend would be very smart moves. Obviously, he worked with both of them at Middlesbrough when they went up. So I don't think Jude Bellingham will actually be that big of a miss either, because obviously he's only been around for just a year. So I don't think they weren't relying on him heavily anyway. So I don't think he'll be as big of a miss. I don't know. I think Birmingham, they've got rid of a couple of players like Lee Camp and Kerem Rapti and Craig Gardner and people like that. But I think they've bought well so far. They've only spent $1 million, and that was on Jonathan Lecco. The rest they brought in on freeze. So I think they've done really well. They've done really good business. And I think under Karanka, like Callum said, I think next year maybe they might push towards the top half and promotion if they can. But yeah, 14.
I believe next it is Blackburn Rovers, and this is probably one of the more interesting ones from what we were talking about before, because if we start off here with me, I've got Blackburn finishing 12th. I don't really think Blackburn have lost enough quality to see them just, fall off the edge of a cliff. They lost. I'm not even going to attempt to say his name. The Man City centre back. And, I feel like they probably got unfortunate with Bradley Dack getting injured. I believe it was the start of the season. But, I feel like with Bradley Dack and with all the talent that they have, people like Ryan Niambe, who's got a lot of potential, I could see Blackburn just staying as a middle of the pack team. They showed last year that they're able to compete with the bigger teams. It's just, are they able to bring someone in at centre-back to replace, I'm going to call him Tosin, to replace Tosin? I've seen things maybe they might get him back on loan because he doesn't look like Man City are interested in using him. But I think it will be interesting. But yeah, I can't see Blackburn finishing any lower than like 15th. But I can't see them finishing any higher than like 10th. So yeah, 12th, bang in the middle for Blackburn.
So yeah, I put them at 15th. I don't really have much to say about them. I don't think, I think they had a fairly decent ride last season. They haven't really lost any key players. They've not really, they've not really made standout signings either. As I say, I don't think they've quite got the squad to push for the top 6. They definitely don't have a squad that are going to be troubled by the relegation zone, barring any major catastrophes through injuries or whatever. Or if they lose a few more players the transfer window, then maybe they'd look over their shoulder. But personally, I don't see it coming. So I've got them at 15th. I think there's not really much more to say on that one. I think they're just a middle of the ground team.
Yeah, I've actually got Blackburn as my surprise strugglers. I think they'll finish 18th. I think Tony Mowbray has probably done as much as he can now. I can't see him staying there for much longer. I know the Blackburn fans aren't. I think they kind of had nothing by this point as well. They're obviously without Bradley Dack as well last season, who will be back after injury, which could be really good. But with the loss of like Chris Borton and Tosin and Greg Cunningham and people like that, there are a lot of key players in their team. And the only player they brought in is Thomas Kaminski in goal because they didn't have any goalkeepers. They got rid of all of them. Kaminski's a really good signing actually, but I don't know. There's just something about Blackburn. I just can't see them doing as well as they did last season. But Bradley, that could be key. But I wouldn't. I think they'll struggle.
Yeah. So moving on to, the one team that probably disappointed everyone towards the end of last year. We're going to move on to Brentford. Jacob, where have you got Brentford finishing?
I've got Brentford in the top 2. I've got them finished in second. I think. The thing is with Brentford that when they lose players, their scouting team are on it in a flash, and they replace quickly and effectively. Usually, obviously they've not lost Watkins yet. They've not lost Saeed Benrahma. They've not lost David Raya, who's been linked with moves away. Like the core of the team is still there. They've still got essentially that same team that got to the playoff final last year. And the second half of last season, they were probably the best team in the league. Especially that last sort of quarter of the season, they were unstoppable. And I struggle to see them falling off too much. I don't see why they'd crumble. I think with some of the teams that are in the league, I think there's a few more that probably have a bit more know-how that I favour more to kind of win the league and mount that push and stay there. I think. I wouldn't be surprised to see Brentford start off in really good form and start, flying off the top of the league. But I do think they might have a little bit of a crumbling period where they sort of fall back a little bit. The results might drop, but I think ultimately they are one of the better teams in the league, especially with the signing of Ivan Toney as well. Every team in the Championship would have happily had him join. So I think they've got a very strong squad. I don't see many teams doing better. So for that reason, I think I've got them in second place.
Yeah, I think I've actually got them finished 4. I don't know. There's something about Brentford where I have a feeling they're not going to do as well as they did last year. I think Benrahma and Watkins are going to be massive. As much as Ivan Toney and I think it's Robin Hack, the German winger that they're looking at replacing Benrahma if he goes. As good as they are and probably are, I don't know if they can really replicate how well Benrahma and Watkins both did. I think Charlie Good is a very good buy as well from Northampton. But again, he has jumped from League 2 to the Championship, so whether he can make that step up is another question. But they haven't really lost anyone too important yet, but I'm going off the fact that Watkins and Benrahma are probably going to go. But I don't know. There's just something about them. I think the end of last season showed that that they can crumble. They're not a team that they won 8 in a row going into like the last 2 games, and they lost to Stoke and Barnsley. Like, I didn't think they were going to crumble like they did, and I don't think anyone else did. So I don't know. I think there are other teams in the league that we'll get onto that are stronger, that will be stronger as well than Brentford. So I've got them finishing 4th.
I've got Brentford finishing 3rd. Like Jacob said, I don't think they've lost enough of the core to plummet down the table at all. They always replace well. I can see Ivan Toney coming in and scoring like 20 goals straight away, maybe more towards the 15 to 18. You know, he's even the second odds-on favourite for the top scorer in the Championship. So clearly other people have faith. You know, if they lose Benrahma, it could be a big hit, but I feel like giving Mbeumo the chance, or Mbeumo, however you say it, to lead the team instead of Benrahma, we'll see a huge up in his stats and what he did. You know, I could really see him. He does have the ability to lead this Brentford team, and then they'll definitely find an adequate replacement for Benrahma. I don't see Brentford getting automatic because I just do feel like 2 of the teams that came down have too much quality to not go straight back up, or just have that experience in the Championship to know how to bounce back up. But I do see it being quite close between all 3 of the top 3. But I do see Brentford being the ones who miss out and finishing 3rd. So if we move on now, we have Bristol City. Lewis, where have you got Bristol City finishing?
Again, I've got them struggling as well. I've put them 19th. They've got... It's more... I think it's more the fact... It's not the players or the squad. It's the manager and the club as a whole. It's not in a good place at the moment. I know the fans, scrolling through Twitter, they're not very happy with how the club's going at the moment. They're not happy with the appointment at all. I don't know. There's something at the club where I just can't see it working with Dean Holden as manager. I don't know if he's managed anywhere else. I don't think he has. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I think they haven't really brought in anyone that's going to do really well. Chris Martin's quite a smart signing, but I can't see him banging loads in for Bristol City. Joe Williams is a good signing from Wigan as well. But I don't know. I think it's just Dean Holden. I just don't know if he can really drag that squad back up to where Lee Johnson had them. I think getting rid of Lee Johnson was a good decision, but I don't think Dean Holden is the man to replace him. So I've got 19th.
Yeah, I think I've got Bristol for 10th. I've got Bristol to finish 10th because I think we don't know enough about Dean Holden, but I think based off the squad they have, I think that's where they'll be looking to finish. And I wouldn't be, if Dean Holden doesn't do well initially, I wouldn't be surprised to see him be one of the first to leave. You know, one of the first to get the boot. Because Bristol, with the squad they have, they should be aiming higher up the league. They should have playoff ambitions. They should definitely not be looking over their shoulder. But, you know, with Chris Martin, I think something not to overlook is that obviously he's not the sort of player that's going to be running around banging goals in every game. It's not his game at all. It's a hold-up striker. I know I've seen him for 7 years at Derby. And what he does, he brings the ball into his feet. You know, it's all link-up play. He's a very handy player to have in your team, especially as a free player, as a free signing. And him and we had Jamie Patterson on loan at Derby for the first sort of half of the season. And their link-up was very good. We didn't see enough of it. You know, I would have quite liked to have seen more of them together. I remember they linked up for the goal. We drew 1-1 with Leeds and Martin came out of nowhere. He hadn't played for so long. Comes out of nowhere, gets the equaliser. And it's Jamie Patterson and Martin that have linked up. So I think that's a combination that Bristol could definitely look to use. They've also got Thomas Callas at the back, who I think is a very good Championship defender. Andreas Weimann, Casey Palmer, another couple of former Derby lads. That's the only reason I mentioned them, to be fair. But they're very good Championship quality players, and they proved that last season as well. So yeah, I'd be surprised to see Bristol too near the bottom of the table. But also, I don't think they've quite got the squad to challenge any of the teams I've predicted to finish above them. So yeah, that's what I've got for Bristol.
Yeah, just quickly, I forgot that I feel like Corey Smith might be a big loss in the dressing room as well.
Yeah, he's been there. He's been there a while, to be fair. So
I've got Bristol finishing 11th. I don't think the losses that they have are big at all. I do think losing Benkovic and not being able to get him back on loan's a problem. But then again, he only played like 10 games for Bristol, so it's not the biggest loss. But I just don't really see Bristol moving from where they are. I think Bristol are one of those teams that needed something better than Dean Holden to, spice the team up. I think unless he's going to come out playing free-flowing football to, actually try to win a 10, I just can't see it. I see Bristol being one of those teams that should be doing better, but are just stuck mid-table in the Championship. And I just don't know if I can really see much improvement from them. But yeah, 11th for Bristol. Next up.
Next one.
Go on.
Next team.
Yeah, next we've got Cardiff, and I'll start. I've got Cardiff finishing 6th. We saw how good Cardiff played last year, and we saw their ability. I do think there is a possibility that they drop out of the playoffs, but I think if they continue to perform the way they did last season, they definitely could. Bringing in Kiefer Moore is a huge signing, in my opinion. I think he's going to do really well at Cardiff. I could see him being one of the, he's not high on the odds makers, but I could see him being one of those people who could slide in for possibly getting close to top scorer in the league. I feel like that's what Cardiff needed last year, was a really impactful striker, and I feel like that with that, they're going to improve. But I just don't see it being enough to crack the top 5. I think they're going to finish 6th.
I've got Cardiff finishing 3rd. I think they'll do really well. I think under Neil Harris, the difference in performances from him and Neil Warnock was outstanding. I think Kiefer Moore, like Callum said, could be really good, and I think it could even be up like signing the season. There are like 4 or 5 championship teams that are looking at him, and there are reasons why. I think Kiefer Moore, it's not only is it a really good signing because of how well he's Wigan, but I think the way that he suits Cardiff's style of play as well. I think it'll be a really good signing, and they haven't lost anyone that important either. I don't know. I think Cardiff will be really good, and I think they'll want to build on what they had last season. I think finishing 5th after the way they started was a good achievement, really good achievement anyway. So I think they'll be looking to build on that.
Yeah, I've got Cardiff in a similar position as well. I've got them 7th. I've got them just missing out on the playoffs. I don't think they're quite as strong as their Welsh counterparts in the league, to be honest, at the moment. But they had a very strong finish to the season. Neil Harris did a great job there. Kiefer Moore is a really good signing. He was linked with Derby. I would have loved for him to have joined us. So definitely a fan of that signing for them. I think he'll fit in well. He'll deliver exactly what Cardiff are looking for. But again, it's the same old, right? All I can really say is that I just think there are a few teams that are a little bit stronger, have a little bit more depth, or have a little bit more trust in the managers or the transfers they're making. I feel like they'll definitely be in the mix. I think it'll be one. The Championship, it always goes down to the last minute. So as we saw with Forest this season, like any team can be there for the whole season and drop out. So I definitely wouldn't be surprised to see Cardiff in 3rd, 4th, 5th place throughout the season. But I think ultimately they might just miss out in the end.
Right, moving on to our next team, we have Coventry. Lewis, where do you think Coventry are going to finish?
I've got them finishing 21st. I don't think there are many teams. I think there are teams that are going to struggle, but I think the ones that were already in the Championship won't do as badly as the League ones. I think the teams that have come up are very strong, but I think Coventry are the strongest of the 3. So I've got them staying up. I think the signings they brought in, they're not really they're quite out there in terms of they haven't got the Championship experience that you'd expect them to try and buy, but they've got players from France and Germany and Holland and all these other countries, and it's whether they can get them to bed in well and get them all working. I think Mark Robbins is a really decent manager as well, but I'm not sure if Coventry. I think they've still got a League One squad, and I think that's going to hurt them going in. I think Luton got away with similar things last year, where they had. I think they still got mostly a League One squad. I think they just saved. by the skin of their teeth. So I think I don't think Coventry have a strong enough squad to stay up. So I've got them 21st.
Fair enough. I've got them in 19th. So I think I'm very similar to you. They've got a League One squad. They've utilised the European transfer market with players that I'm not going to lie, I've never heard of any of them before they joined Coventry. I don't think many people had. But I think, like you say, they're the strongest out of the three promoted teams. Again, it's one of those situations where I don't really have much to go off because, I'm not too familiar with Coventry. But they have, obviously, they've been promoted, rightly so. I mean, I'm speaking out my arse. I need to fucking start again because I've just rambled. I don't even know what I'm saying. Right, so I've got Coventry in 19th. I think similar to you, really, where the signings they've made are, it doesn't really change the dynamic of the squad that much. They've got a League One squad for the most part. They've utilised the European transfer market where obviously the players that they've signed are quite unheard of. I hadn't heard of any of them before they joined Coventry. But again, as you said, the strongest team for me out of the three that came up. That's why I've got them surviving the drop. I think they will survive. But yeah, I'm interested to see how they get on this season. It's been a while since they've been at in the Championship, so it's good to have them back. Unfortunately, obviously, they're not going to be playing at their own stadium. They're ground sharing Birmingham again, so I don't know if that's going to have an effect at all. But yeah, I mean, I've got them surviving the drop.
I've also got Coventry surviving the drop, finishing 21st, doing a bit of squeaky bum time due to Sheffield's points deduction. I do think Coventry are going to be similar to a team like a Luton, where it may be, like League One quality, but that teamwork and that ability to, work together is going to help them quite a lot in a similar fashion to it did like teams like Barnsley and Luton. I do see them stay. I would say they'd go down any other season, but due to Sheffield having a points deduction, I see Coventry being able to survive by the skin of their teeth. So if we move on, next we have, well, look who it is. We have Derby County next.
Who?
So I think it's right if we start with you, Jacob. Where do you think Derby are going to finish?
Well, I've got to back him really, haven't I? I've got this in 6th place. I think I'll put us in the playoffs. So I think we had a strong. Well, before lockdown, before Corona hit, we were in fantastic form. Obviously, all the stats. Us and Wigan had the best form in the league. And, I think we'd scored the most goals since Christmas. We'd topped the points chart since Christmas. We were in great form. And I think this sort of break in the season came at the completely wrong time for us. It sort of derailed the momentum we'd been building up. And eventually we did crash out. We didn't beat any of the teams above us and we didn't get the playoffs and we didn't deserve to get the playoffs. But this season, all the young players that had been kind of thrown into the mix are set now. They're all happy in the team. They're all, they're first team players now. It's not like we can keep referring to them as the youth players. They're part of the first team and comfortably so. They're some of our better players. And with Koku to guide them, and for me, Koku is one of the best managers in the league. He's a fantastic manager. I'm very happy with him in charge. I think it's easy to see from the start of last season to now how he's sort of moulded his philosophy, and the players sort of buying into it now. We've got a few different formations that we're able to utilise. The squad we have is good. We're looking to add to that as well. I mean, our squad numbers came out today, and there's no number 7, there's no number 11. The manager's admitted to wanting to sign attacking players. So we've got the defence sorted. We've got a good goalkeeper now in Marshall, which is an area we needed to improve on from last season. We've signed a new centre-back in Mike Taveric from Groningen in the Eredivisie. Our midfield is stacked anyway. We've got a very good midfield, probably one of the best in the Championship, from my point of view. We do need to improve on the wings and up top, and I think we are going to do that. And I think without a striker and a winger, we could get top 6. With a striker and a winger, then maybe higher, but I don't want to push my luck because we know what it's like being a Derby fan, and we know what happens when we think Derby are going to go up and do well. But yeah, I've got them for 6th, maybe higher, depending on the signings we get.
Yeah, I've also got Derby in 6th as well. I don't think they're going to get any higher purely because I think there are a lot of teams that are still stronger than them. But I think Philip Cocu was definitely an example of why you should give managers time, because at the start, the first half of last season wasn't great. I remember like there was a period of time near the end of 2019 where Derby hadn't won an away game or done anything for ages. And then as soon as 2020 hit, Wayne Rooney is obviously a massive lift, but obviously he's not the only reason for that. There are other reasons as well. But I don't know. I can see them carrying on their momentum. Obviously, they didn't get playoffs at the end of last season, but I think people kind of overlooked who they had to play. They had to play like Brentford, Leeds, like all the good teams. And
we had 9 games. I think we had 9 games, and 7 of those teams were above us.
Yeah, like you started off lockdown with like 3 or 4 wins or something like that, and you were carrying on that momentum, and then you had to play Leeds, like the Leeds, Brentford, and all those other teams, and that's where you lost, and that's how it didn't work out. But I think there are some smart signings. They haven't really lost anyone. That I think Chris Martin's the only notable signing that they've now lost as well. But I think David Marshall is a really good signing as well. Derby definitely needed a keeper because Ben Hamer and Kelleroos were not good enough, especially after lockdown. Ben Hamer obviously had a lot of errors. There'll be a lot of goals, so they'll be glad to see the back of him. And Kelleroos as well. I think since the playoff final against Villa, he just hasn't really. I don't think he's just been given that much of a chance. But at the same time, I don't really. I get why they haven't. I think David Marshall was one of the best keepers in terms of clean sheets last season for a Wigan side that were really good. I think 15, I want to say.
15, yeah. He was one off top.
Yeah, so his age might have been a bit of a problem. I think he's like mid-30s, something like that. So it's a 2-year deal or
2-year deal, yeah.
Yeah. So I think they will have to get a younger replacement in, but either way, I think Derby are looking very strong. Matt Clark as well, I think, like getting him back on loan. I didn't think they were. I thought Brighton would keep him, but they've got him back on loan, and I think that could be a really decent signing. So yeah, I see Derby getting top 6. So 6.
I may be the odd one out here. I've got Derby finishing 8th. I don't see Derby making the playoffs solely down to them just not having a striker. I don't know who's going to bag all these goals for them because, Chris Martin was able to get 11 for them. I don't know. You might have to correct me, but was he a highest goal scorer?
Him and Waghorn both had 12 in all competitions.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. 12 in all competitions isn't exactly fantastic, but it's not.
Bearing in mind, though, Martin played half the games and came off the bench for a lot of games as well.
Yeah.
So he's criminally underrated.
Yeah, that's what I mean, and that's clearly going to be a big loss for Derby. Wayne Rooney clearly had a big impact on the squad when he came in, so that's why I do think it's going to be very close for playoffs, just like it was the last season. I think any team between 6th and probably 8th, or maybe even 9th, can probably squeak into the playoffs. But they've got Matt Clark, who probably was going. If you look at average rating, was the best player last season. They've still got talent like Tom Lawrence. If they're able to, and if Jayden Bogle's able to come back and maybe not play like last season, but the season before, if he's able to perform like that, where I believe he got it was 9 assists. I know he did really well. He got 3 goals and 9 assists or something like that. If they're able to have productivity like that, then I really could see Derby pushing. I believe you've also got Bielik back.
He is back training lightly. He should be back. I don't think he'll be back this year, but he will be back next season. Yeah.
Yeah. So I could see Derby making the playoffs, but I have them just missing it in 8th. So if we move on to the next team, it is Huddersfield. I don't think any of us really think Huddersfield are going to be any good.
No, I've got them 18th.
I've also got them 18th.
Yeah, I've got them 20th.
I think
for me as well, one of the big things is Ben Hamer. He is their goalkeeper. He's number 1 as well, squad number 1. He's already made mistakes for them in pre-season. I don't know if any of you have seen the clip. But I think Huddersfield had Man United in the 23s. He's been passed the ball. He's tried to run across his own goal. He's slipped over and he's let them score. It's very comical, but it's what you see from him quite consistently now, which is a shame. So I think Huddersfield actually did sign Joel Pereira from Man United, I believe, on loan. Yeah. I don't know if it's a loan or permanent, actually. But I'm assuming he's now going to be the #1 goalkeeper. I'm sure they've spotted that Ben Hamer might be a bit of a weakness, but I mean the fans didn't seem too overwhelmed with that signing either. Apparently he struggled. He was on loan in the Scottish in the SPL. Apparently he wasn't too great there either. So if I was a Huddersfield fan, I wouldn't be too excited for the season, to be fair. There's always a possibility that they lose Callum Grant as well. And I think Huddersfield without Callum Grant is a completely different team to Huddersfield with Callum Grant. I think they have him at the moment, and it's good for them that they have him now. But if he is to leave, which has been rumoured, then I wouldn't fancy him too much. They would be looking over their shoulder.
Yeah, I've got Huddersfield 20th as well. I think Carlos Corberán is a. I don't think it's the right choice again. Similar to Bristol City, where I think the squad isn't good enough anyway. It's a mix of Premier League and old Premier League quality and low Championship level. It's a really weird squad. They've got a lot of players. They've still got Mbenza and Diakabi and Hajduk. I don't know how to say his name, but yeah, they've got all these players. I think who they brought in so far, they've only brought in Joel Pereira and Danny Ward, who Joel Pereira obviously struggled at Hearts, like Jacob said, as I think they got relegated. And then Danny Ward as well from Cardiff, which is actually quite a decent signing. But they haven't really they've got rid of a lot of players as well. Kamil Grabara as well, I think he was quite good from a loan from Liverpool, and I don't know if Joel Pereira will be able to replicate how good he was. And then, like Jacob said, Callum Grant. I think West Brom are looking at him.
Yeah.
That could be a big loss if he goes. I don't know. I don't think Huddersfield are as good as they were, and I really think they're going to struggle again.
Yeah, to be honest, I do think Huddersfield have got quite lucky this year, especially with Callum Grant, with the teams that have come up, because obviously we've got Wickham, who in the first place were quite lucky to make the playoffs, and then we're able to have this miracle run through. I just don't really see the talent. It's like the people that are Premier League quality aren't able to nullify the low Championship quality. It's just a weird blend, and it's just Huddersfield constantly underachieving. Instead of bringing in Championship talent, they keep trying to bring in what they think is Premier League talent, not realising that they're Huddersfield, a below average Championship team, and they can't really attract what they could attract when they're in the Premier League. But to be honest, I've got them 18th, but if they did lose Callum Grant, I honestly could see them dropping to like 20th, 21st, maybe even relegation. But like I said, I don't think they'll get relegated due to Sheffield's points deduction and the teams that have come up this year. So I think Huddersfield get lucky this year and manage to survive. But moving on next to 11th, a team that probably also could be quite lucky to survive this year due to a points deduction is Luton. Luton really turned things around last year, and they were able to really start performing well and did catch a few teams off guard. I believe they brought Breen on a permanent, who, Luton always seem to have quality fullbacks, so then, again, that's going to help them. If Collins can score the goals again this year, I believe that's his name, Irish. Yeah, if he can bag goals again for them, but I believe he's on the wrong side of 30 now. I don't know. I don't really see Luton surprising anyone. I think Luton are going to finish 20th, and I had them 21st, but that's only because of Sheffield's points deduction that they actually got 20th, and I do see it being quite close between 22nd and above that, but to like 19th. I see it being quite close.
I agree with you. I mean, I've got them 21st. I think, again, for me, realistically, they did well to stay up last year. They were in the bottom three for the whole season, and miraculously kind of stuck together when it mattered most, and managed to escape relegation. I think it's going to be a very similar season. I wouldn't be surprised to see Luton down there for the majority, but I think they are going to escape relegation again. I think they're going to look to build on last season. But again, I don't think they're a team that have made many signings to improve on last season. I don't think they've got the pull either, because if you go into a Championship club and you've got the choice of Luton or basically any other Championship club, you're probably not going to go to Luton because they are a very small team. I think Luton and Wickham are probably the two teams that you'd probably pick any other team over at the minute. And that's no disrespect to the clubs. It's just that they are, the smaller teams. They're less likely to be successful. So I don't think they have the pull to be able to get those sort of game-changing signings unless they're like loan moves from like good young teenagers from Premier League clubs that are looking for game time. But yeah, I think Luton just avoid the drop. I quite like them. They're a nice little team. They're compact. They know what to do. I think having Graham Jones back as well is going to be interesting to see how he does back with Luton. So yeah, we'll see how they do. But I'm definitely they're a team I'm going to keep an eye on again. But I think they do escape relegation.
Yeah, I do. I actually have Luton 16th. I think that I think it goes quite unnoticed how well they actually did after lockdown. The Nathan Jones bounce was very real. They only lost one game, and that's to Reading. After lockdown, they were superb.
Did I say Graham Jones?
They had Graham Jones, and then they got Nathan Jones.
Yeah, I meant Nathan Jones.
But yeah, Nathan Jones has now come back to Luton, and now they've just become really good again. And I don't think it's a surprise. He's pretty much the same squad from when he left. I think the signings they brought in so far, you can tell, like Jacob said, that they're quite a small club because they've been looking at League One clubs. They brought in Jordan Clark from Accrington, Tom Lockyer from Charlton, and Reece Norrington-Davies, who was on loan at Rochdale last season from Sheffield United. I actually think that one could be a really good signing because Nathan Jones loves his attacking wing backs, and I think Reece Norrington-Davies is one of those players that's like that as well. And I could see him pushing Ender Stevens in a year or two if he really pushes on the Luton this year. I think it's a step up that he really needs to make. But I think Tom Lockyer is actually quite a good sign. I believe they got him quite cheap because I believe there's a clause in his contract or something like that. If Charlton got relegated, they could get him quite cheap. So Welsh international as well. I think that was quite good. However, looking at the players they've got rid of, I think Izzy Brown could be a massive loss. He did struggle with injury. However, he was one of their more creative threats that they've now lost. I think they probably brought in Jordan Clark to replace that, but I don't know if he's really going to be good enough. I don't think he's really been tested at this level yet. So this is a squad that is still a League One squad in my opinion, but I think Nathan Jones really might be able to drag these guys up a little bit. It's an iffy one because I'm looking back at it now and I feel like 16th might have been a bit too high, but I wouldn't be surprised if they would finish lower, but I do think they are going to finish about.
Right, so moving on to the next team, we have Middlesbrough, who, people probably thought may have done quite well. Neil Warnock in after Jonathan Woodgate did an awful job. But I just think they've lost so much of the team. They lost Patrick Roberts, they've lost George Friend, Clayton, Ayala, Gestead. I understand that these players aren't fantastic players and were on quite big wages, but Middlesbrough also haven't done anything to replace them. They've got Marcus Brown back from Oxford, who did quite well. I could see him doing really well in this team, but I don't see them finishing any higher than where I have them, which is 15th. To be completely honest, I just don't see anything else.
See, I've got them in 13th. I've got a very similar opinion to you, to be honest. I just think they criminally underperformed last year. Woodgate wasn't the right decision. I don't know why they ever. I certainly didn't think he was going to do much when he was announced. Neil Warnock's a proven manager. He gets teams promoted. That's what he does. Except I think Middlesbrough, their squad isn't as good as the teams he's taken over originally before now. So obviously we don't know how long Warnock will stay with Middlesbrough for. But I think he will, he'll improve them from last season. They'll finish higher in the league. I think that's a certainty. But I don't think they've quite got the squad to push for the top six. So I've got them 13th, just sort of smack bang in the middle.
Yeah, I've got Middlesbrough 17th, the exact same place they finished last season as well. I think as much as I wouldn't be surprised if they pushed higher purely because of how good Neil Warnock is. We know how experienced he is at this level and how good he is at getting teams out of this division in the right direction. But this Middlesbrough team just seems too weak to me. They've only brought in one player, which is Grant Hall from QPR, which is a really good signing. But at the same time, I don't think they need to bring in some more quality. You look at the players they've got rid of: George Friend, Ryan Shotton, Daniel Yala, Adam Clayton, Patrick Roberts, Harold McCoody, all these other players that they haven't brought in. They haven't been able to get their other targets like Kiefer Moore. I know they're looking at a goalkeeper, I think, because I don't think Neil Warnock's a fan of Ainsley Pearce. I might be wrong, but I think he is he wants to get a more experienced keeper in. But Jonathan Woodgate set up the next manager very well and bringing all these youth players through, and some of them playing really well. But I'm not sure if Neil Warnock is the person to take over and keep that going. I think he'll want to bring in his more experienced players and try and push up. But I think this Middlesbrough squad is too weak, and at this moment in time, I can't see them going any higher really. So yeah, I've got Middlesbrough 17th. So I think the next team is Millwall. I do believe. I've got Millwall finishing 7th. I think they'll do really well this season. I think they'll push on. I think Gary Rowett it was quite an iffy appointment at the time. Obviously, he struggled at Stoke and Derby. He didn't do very well at Derby, did he?
He got us into the playoffs.
Oh yeah.
It was one of those managers where the gameplay wasn't pretty, but it got results similar to what you've seen at Millwall, really.
Yeah. I think Millwall brought in Mason Bennett and Scott Malone. I'm not sure. I don't know how well Mason Bennett did at Derby. I think they both seem like very Millwall signings, if that makes sense.
I think they'll both suit Millwall. I don't think they're going to make a massive difference at all. I don't think these signings are going to improve their chances of finishing higher, because, I mean, if they were, then we wouldn't have been so eager to get rid of it. It's not like we reluctantly let them go. These were players that we earmarked as players we wanted to push out. So yeah, I'm not. Yeah, as far as I'm aware about those two signings, I don't think they're going to contribute too much to the upheaval of Millwall.
Yeah, I think Troy Parrott could be a really good signing, but he's been quite untested. I don't think he's really played much first team football at all. So making his first step up in the Championship at Millwall side, who are very, very physical and quite the opposite to where he would have been at Tottenham. I'm not sure how it's going to work. I think getting Ryan Woods on loan is actually a really good sign as well. But I think the loss of Jason Malumbi could be quite key. So yeah, I think I've got Millwall 7th. I think Gary Rowett I think he could playoffs this year, but I think there are too many teams that
See, I've got Millwall 12th. I think they had a really good season last season. I think Gary Rowett's a good manager at what he does. But I think similarly to what happens with many managers in this league, especially when you play kind of a dull style of football, which without being rude, that is what it is. I think he'll be found out a little bit more this season. I think Millwall had a good season. I don't think they've made signings to make their squad stronger than any other team. So it's like, if I'm looking at the list of teams I've got here, the teams that I've put above them, Millwall do have a weaker squad than all of those teams. And I think actually they do have a weaker squad than a few teams I've put below them. But I think the manager is huge for Millwall. I think Rowett is a great manager, great fit for Millwall, which is why I put them 12th instead of low down. Millwall was the prediction last season that I messed up the most. I put Millwall rock bottom last season, and they proved me very wrong. And I'm reluctant to put them near the bottom again now after that season. But honestly, I think they'll be, in the middle. They had a strong season last season, but I don't think they're too much to be frightened of, especially taking into account that they have no home fans. They have no atmosphere for the start of the season at least anyway, which for a team like Millwall can actually really, really help push them on. It can intimidate the opposition, and they don't have that now. So I think it might have a factor for teams like Millwall who rely on their atmosphere quite a bit. But yeah, I've got Millwall 12th. I can't see them in a relegation trouble at all, but I don't see them being too near the top 6.
I've actually got Millwall doing really well. I've got them finishing 9th. I just think the culture in Millwall, the fans, different story, but the culture and the actual squad, it's a great culture. They've proven that they can handle it towards the top of the Championship, proving it, almost managing to getting quite close actually to sneaking into the playoffs last year. They brought in Troy Parrott, and I do really think Parrott's going to do well for them. I saw the potential at Spurs. I honestly could see him coming straight in and getting maybe 14, 15 goals. And I feel like Mason Bennett's really going to fit the way that Gary Rowett likes to play. But I can't see them dropping into the bottom half of the table, especially with Gary Rowett and how good this team is, in my opinion, with the way they work. They haven't lost any of the big centre-back talent, in my opinion. I think they're going to still keep the strong defence that they've got. And yeah, I think they're going to do quite well and they're going to surprise. But anyway, if we move on next, we have Norwich. Lewis, how do you think Norwich are going to do?
I have them finish second. I think Norwich haven't lost anyone. I think they've just kept hold of the entire team. But what they've done is literally what no other team in the league has done: bought in early. They've literally bought like 5 or 6 players within the first couple of weeks. And about half the clubs hadn't even made a signing by then. Like, they brought in the players, they knew what they wanted straight away. Norwich is one of the best, well-run clubs in the league. I think Stuart Webber is really good as a director of football at that club. And I think the players that they bring in, they're very smart about it. I think they're similar to Brentford, but they just got their business done really early. I think Paqueta could be a really good signing on the wing. I think even if they lose like one or two of their key players, I think they still be up there. But at this moment in time, I haven't really seen any rumours. Nothing's really going on. It doesn't look like they're going to lose any of their players at all. And if they manage to keep all of them, because they've got all of them down to a long-term contract, so they can be reluctant to sell them because they know that they'll have them for the next couple of years. So I think Norwich I think they'll do really well. I haven't put them top because I just think there's one team that has just got too much quality ahead of them. But I can see Norwich bouncing back straight away, just as they always do. So I think I've got them second.
Yeah, I'm in a similar situation where I think that Norwich have the ability just to bounce straight back up. That's what they do. They don't seem to stay in one league for too long. But I've got them third. I've not got them first or second. I've got them third. I think, obviously, I've already said I think Brentford will finish second. I've got another team who I think are too strong. I'm assuming it's the same team, to be honest. But I've got Norwich finishing third. I think they have lost a few players, but I don't think they were key players. I'm sure Josip Dermic, I think they signed him. Was it from the Bundesliga last season?
Yeah, Mönchengladbach.
I think he's gone already. I think there are a couple of other players that were failed signings that have gone. So I don't think they've lost in key. Well, they definitely haven't lost in key areas. But as it stands, they've still got Pukki. They've got Cantwell. They've got the core of the team that took them up. And if they can keep hold of Cantwell, then that's massive for them. But I wouldn't be surprised to see someone come in and snatch him at the last minute. But yeah, Norwich just know what to do. They utilise transfer market extremely well. Farke, he's got him out of the league once before. They've kept the faith in him. There's no reason why I can't do it again. And I think realistically, if Norwich do finish in the playoffs, then they've been there and done that so many times. I've had all my faith with being Norwich to then go on and win the playoffs anyway. So I think, before a ball's even been kicked, I think I would not bet against Norwich being promoted again, but I'm not too sure whether or not it's going to be in the top two. They have a lot of quality, but I think there's just two teams that might out-muscle them, out-strengthen this year.
I've actually got Norwich winning the league. I think everyone knows that other team, and I feel like that other team's about to lose a lot of talent with my team taking arguably the best player. I feel like what Norwich have done is smart because Norwich have actually bought replacements for all the players they could possibly lose. If there's a slight chance Timu Pukki leaves, Jordan Hughel's been signed to replace him. Todd Cantwell leaves, Kieran Dowell's in to replace him. I feel like Norwich have done really well, and now they're just going to have more money. They're just going to have more money to spend just in case something happens. So I see Norwich finishing first in the league. So let's move on to the next team, which is Jacob's favourite team, Nottingham Forest.
Well, I'll keep it short and sweet. I think they're going to finish 8th. I think they're going to finish back below Derby where they belong. I think they had a good season last year, and I think that's it for them really. I think Lamucci started to lose the dressing room a bit. Their heads dropped massively. Obviously, because the way they bottled it last year, that's going to be playing in their heads. yeah, I don't think they've improved their squad enough. They have made clever signings. I'll give them that, and they've obviously selling Matty Cash for 16 million, rising up to 16 million. I mean, that's an excellent piece of business for them. But I'm yet to, I said last season that they wouldn't finish above us, and they did. But I'm going to say it again this season. I think they are going to finish 8th. I think they're going to be in and around the playoffs, but ultimately, I think they're going to fall out.
Yeah, I've also got Nottingham Forest at 8th. I think that, again, it's not the players that are the problem. I think they bought in really well, actually. I think Basharoo is going to be a really good signing. That's quite intelligent one. Luke Freeman could be really good as well. Lyle Taylor and Tyler Blackett and Jack Colback all on frees. Really good signings. But I don't see Lamucci being the person to get them into playoffs or even take them up. I don't really rate him as a manager. I think he got found out at the end of the season. He doesn't have a plan B, and I don't think he'll be manager by the end of next season. So I think he'll be 8th.
I've actually backed Nottingham Forest a bit here. I've got them finishing 4th. Like I said, my entire from 4th to like 8th is from the way I've worked out, it's within like 4 points of each other. But I just don't know if it's because I've let a certain person in our course hype me up a little bit with the signings they've made. I do think they've bought in really well. They've used the free transfer market exceptionally, in my opinion. Lyle Taylor and Graben are just going to score goals. That's a given. Luke Freeman's a really talented player, and I can see him doing well. Whether Lamucci is the problem, I can agree that he may have lost the dressing room. Maybe they do this without Lamucci, but I feel like Forest are going to finish 4th and then lose to Bournemouth in the first round of the playoffs and ball it. But next we have Preston North End. Preston are a bit of a boring team, really. They always seem to be around this area. I've got them finishing 10th. Yeah,
I've got them 11th.
I've got them 10th. Well,
we may as well leave it there.
Yeah, it's Preston. If you want great analysis, go check someone like Ben HD or something out. Preston are just your typical mid-table club.
Yeah,
and
I don't think their squad's good enough, and I don't think the club is. I don't think they have the money as well. And they've got a lot of players going into the last year of their contract, like Ben Davies and Ben Pearson, who could be massive.
They're just a typical middle of the pack team.
Yeah,
they've still got David Nugent. So I mean, that's all you need to know.
Especially since it looks like they're losing Ben Davies to I think it was Celtic as well. I can't see them doing anything without him. Next up is the team that I think is going to have the biggest drop-off, and that's QPR. I've actually got QPR finishing. Let me make sure I've got this right. Yeah, I've got QPR finishing 19th.
I've got 17th.
I've got.
I just think with losing Eze, that's the simplest way to put it. I feel like it's going to be really hard for them to buy someone even close to the quality of Eze who can put the team on his back and carry them to a mid-table finish, because that's what he did. Now we're moving on to the team with the best song in football, and that's Reading. I've got Reading finishing 13th. I almost bought into the hype when I was talking to Lewis about it yesterday, looking at all the signings they might make. But I do feel like the teams above them just have a bit more quality or have a bit more just gel. The teams are just gelled together more. I feel like if Reading bring a load of signings in, it might mess up the team chemistry, and a manager I don't think many of us have ever heard of. I feel like Reading are a mystery team, but I'm just going to put them 13th.
Yeah, 100%. I've got them 12th. I literally have, as a Reading fan myself, I have no idea where to put us at all. I've literally just put slap bang in the middle, because I wouldn't be surprised if we were in a relegation fight, and I wouldn't be surprised if we were going for top 6. I wouldn't know, because the signings we've been linked with have been really good. We've been apparently getting an Atletico Madrid youngster who's been rated by Simeone on maybe even a permanent deal. Massive. And then 2 Benfica players who might be going on a free. Because we've got an agent on our side, like Nottingham Forest and Wolves do. So we're kind of just using him. Same agent as Coutinho, I think. So he's got players like that. But yeah, we're quite a tricky one. The new manager, I can't say I know much about him. I don't think any Reading fans do. I don't know his style of player at all. He's coming in very late to the season. He's not going to be managing the League Cup game either. So the first game of the season is literally going to be his first game. I think he managed the pre-season one, but we don't know anything about that because was said. But yeah, we haven't really lost. We've lost a lot of players, but not anyone too key. Keeping John Swift is massive, and getting Ajaro back on a permanent as well. But it depends really on what signings we make and how Pavlovic plays. But I was not a clue. So
yeah, I've got them to finish 14th, and I think you've covered everything, to be honest. I don't think there's anything. I don't think anyone knows what to expect from them, but I'm not expecting too much. I'm not expecting them to be in any trouble. I think there's easily 4, 5, 6 teams that are much worse off than Reading. So for me, that's enough reason just to bang them right in the middle of the table.
Next up, we've got Rotherham and bottom. Rotherham are finishing bottom.
Bottom.
See, I've not got Rotherham bottom.
Neither.
So I've got Rotherham to win the league. No. I've got Rotherham 23rd.
Yeah, I've got them 22nd as well. I think there's one team that's weaker than them, and then there's another one who've had unfortunate circumstances go against them, which will also put them below them. So I don't know. I still think Rotherham are going to go down though. I don't think.
I think it's a similar vibe with a lot of the teams that come straight up and they don't quite have the funding that a lot of the other Championship teams do. I think they've not really strengthened their squad. They never do. They never do strengthen their squad. They come up, they go down. They come up, they go down. They just don't really. It's like they don't even want to make a fight of staying up almost. But yeah, I don't see them troubling any team. I look at the other teams that I've put down there. Rotherham, compared to Luton, compared to Barnsley, compared to Coventry, I think all three of those teams are better than Rotherham. So yeah, it's simple. I just think Rotherham are going to go straight down in 23rd.
Right. So moving on next, we have Stoke. I don't know about Stoke. They have these weird performances where they look like a top 6 club, but then they look like they should be finishing bottom. I don't have much faith in Stoke at all. I've got Stoke finishing 17th.
That's a very different opinion to me. I've got Stoke in 9th.
So do I. I have 9th as
well. Mainly because of the way they finished last season. That they looked strong. They battered Forest as well, which is a really good game, by the way. There were quite a few other teams. They sort of just batted. It was like it wasn't even a serious game to them. They were sort of just hitting them away. And then obviously we've seen in pre-season as well. They've just dispatched Leeds 3-0 as if Leeds, were nothing essentially. And yeah, I just have every faith in them that they're going to actually push on and be that team we thought they were going to be 2 seasons ago when they first came down. They've just got they have a good squad. They have had a good squad for 3 years. For the last 2 seasons. And they're heading into their 3rd season now in the Championship, still with a very good squad. Joe Allen is a good midfielder. They've got players like Tom Ince, who a lot of people have saying have been underperforming, but if he can get into gear, then he's a fantastic winger to have in the Championship. They're just a handy team. I think they're going to do quite well. I don't think they're going to push the top 6 yet. I feel like that might be a little bit too much to ask to go from so low to so high, like on back-to-back seasons. But I do think they'll be up there. I think they're going to trouble the top 6. I think it's going to be a very difficult place to go to their stadium and pick up points as well. But I definitely don't think they're going to be in a relegation battle this year. I think they've probably got past that couple of poor seasons now. And I fully expect them to push on this season, start kind of building towards the next few seasons and aim to get back up to the Prem eventually.
Yeah, I've also got Stoke 9th. I think the signings they've brought in have been really good. Morgan Fox and Stephen Fletcher especially, I think, are really good signings from Sheffield Wednesday. I think John Obi Mikel could actually be really good as well. Obviously, a very experienced centre midfielder. And they haven't lost anyone that big. So, yeah, I think Stoke 9th, they ended the season really well. They've finally got the missing piece of their puzzle, and the manager has always been the problem, I think, since they've come down. And Michael O'Neill seems to have fixed that problem, I think, anyway. So I don't think they're going to be playoffs, but I think they're definitely going to start pushing up the table a bit more. So 9th for me.
Tyrese Campbell as well.
Yeah.
Tyrese Campbell. He's very, very exciting young player.
Yeah.
Right, so moving on next, we have Swansea. I have Swansea finishing 7th. I had them finishing lower, but I looked at the transfers and I do think they've made good business. They've done really well to replace the players that they're losing from loans. And I do think the manager, what's his name? The Gollum looking, what's his name?
Steve Cooper.
Him. I think Steve Cooper, I think he really did well with Swansea, and he really brought out the best in that team, which was shown in the playoffs as well. You know, I think Swansea and Cardiff could swap around, but I'm going to say Swansea finish 7th and just miss out.
Yeah, I mean, I've got them finishing 4th. I think Swansea do make it. I think that they're another team that finished really strongly last year. They've made good signings, like we've gone through. Morgan Gibbs-White, I think, is going to be a fantastic signing for Swansea. They've obviously got, I don't want to butcher the pronunciation, but got Gay.
It'll be Gay. I can imagine.
The centre back from Chelsea. Either way, they've got him back, which is a good pull for them. Obviously, they are losing out on, I think Conor Gallagher and Ryan Brewster have departed, which is going to be a big loss to them. But they have made the signings to kind of start replacing them. I think in general, they have a good squad, a good manager. They look set on what they're doing. And if they can sort of get past the losses of their loanees from last season, then I see no reason why they're not going to push for the top 6 again. They have a good squad. I think that's about as far as it goes. I just think they'd be disappointed if they weren't to get top 6. That's for sure.
Yeah, I've got Swansea 5th. I think they'll do really well this upcoming season. I think Steve Cooper's now had this year. I think them getting playoffs in the first place was a surprise, and I think that first performance against Brentford gives me a lot of hope. I think the signs they've made, Ryan Brewster and Conor Gallagher are obviously big misses, but I think signings like Jamal Lowe and like that are also going to be really good signs as well. I just think Steve Cooper, with the pull that he's got on these young English players, I think he is going to bring added quality to this side, and I think they're going to do quite well this season. So I've got 5th.
Right, so moving on next, we have Watford. And Jacob, what do you think of Watford? I mean, I think I know what you two have picked for Watford, but...
Yeah, top of the league.
Right, so I've got them finishing 2nd, but that's mainly because I feel like, unlike Norwich, they haven't actually tried to replace the talent that they know they're going to lose. You know, I'm looking through the signings here. I don't think any of these people are going to replace Decore. I feel like...
Sorry, but I think the way that Watford have gone about their business, like, I don't think they're necessarily in need of replacement.
That's my point.
Like, with obviously Deeney probably on his way out, they've still got Andre Gray, and they've got Glenn Murray on loan, which I would have been happy if I was a Leeds or, you know, one of the promoted teams that had just gone up, or a Fulham, whatever, and we'd signed Glenn Murray on loan. It's not the sort of, you know, it's not that marquee signing you hope for, but he's a good player. He was scoring goals not long ago for Brighton in the Premier League, and people were saying, why isn't he being given a shout in the England team? And now he's on loan at Watford. I think he'll thrive being back in the Championship. So they've got a goal scorer. I think Decore leaves, but then they have other players. Will Hughes is going to be fantastic in the Championship. Very underrated Premier League player. I know him very well from when he spent his time at Derby. A lot of Watford fans want him to be the captain. They're really impressed with him. I believe they've still got Tom Cleverley as well.
Yeah, they do.
So they have a good team. They do. Without Decore, all it is essentially they're going to get an extra 25, 30 mil in their pocket to spend in January if they are missing players like that. I think they are going to miss, you know, like Dale Afeu, Decore, assuming they do all leave. That is going to be a big miss for them. But also, I don't think it's going to hit them hard enough that they're going to fail in the Championship, because they have a Premier League squad. There's no way they should have been relegated. They have been. They've got to build on that now. But I think it's probably one of the strongest teams I've seen in the Championship since Newcastle came down a few years ago.
Yeah, I think Watford have got possibly the strongest team I've ever seen in the Championship. Even if they get rid of Decore, they've still got Etienne Capoue, Tom Cleverley, Will Hughes, all these other Premier League quality players, and they haven't really, apart from Decore, who looks to be on his way out, they haven't got rid of anyone that important, and it doesn't look like they are either. Even if Ismaila Sarr leaves, that they've got, what people don't realise is that Watford have got all of these players out on loan who don't get given a chance, and now we're seeing Pervis Estupiñán come back, Luis Suarez, not one, but another one, come back as well, and seeing all these players come back, and I don't know. Watford don't need to buy because they've already got these players. It's just whether they're actually going to use them or not. But yeah, so I've got Watford top. I think if they don't get promoted, it would be a massive shock. I also think the manager as well he'll really toughen them up, which is what they needed. I think Vladimir Ivic is a very smart woman, and yeah.
But I just don't think Watford are going to keep on to their talent. I think they lose Sarr, Delafeu, Decore. I'd be really surprised if Capoue doesn't leave. You know, I think what Watford need to do is at least make sure they have backups that are championship quality, and which is easy for a team like Watford to do. You know, I believe they've been rumoured with Grimes from Swansea.
Yeah, 8 million.
That'd be a great signing. I think they just need to make sure they've got the backup talent just in case, because you never know what could happen to a player, the type of injury they could get. I think Ngakia was a great signing. But anyway, before we spend too long on Watford, we move on to Wickham.
Before we start with Wickham, we've missed out a team.
I was thinking that as well.
Sheffield Wednesday.
On my little table thing there, bottom.
Oh yeah, you would have got the table up now, so that we'll get to that.
I've got it up on.
Okay, we'll get to him.
We'll get Wickham.
Just checking.
I didn't make a mistake. Right. Yeah, but Wickham, it's cool to see someone like, you know, it's literally, look, Akinfen was in the Championship.
Yeah.
I think that's why they have got a good squad. I do think they've got a really good League One squad, and it showed. You know, they were able to get the best out of all the players like Akinfen were, but you know, everyone's just happy to see Akinfen in the Championship. Besides that, everyone knows Wickham are going back down. I've got Wickham finishing 22nd, and that's only because of Sheffield Wednesday's points deduction.
I've got Wickham finishing bottom. I've got a few little notes next to all my teams here, and I've literally put too much. Like, it's too much to ask of them to be in the Championship. I think if the season had been completed, I don't think they would have got into the playoffs. I think, you know, Peterborough are so unlucky not to have got into the playoffs last season in League One. I think they realistically probably would have been the better team to have in the Championship. But Wickham are here. They're here for a season, and I think it will be just for a season. I don't have much faith in them to stay up, and I'd love to see them prove me wrong. I love seeing underdogs do well in the Championship. Like with Luton last year, it was great seeing them stay up in the way they did. But I just don't think Wickham have what it takes, and hopefully I'm proven wrong. But they'll rock bottom with my prediction. I just don't see them coping too well.
Yeah, this is it's a Burton or Yeovil situation where I think when Yeovil came up, they didn't even finish that far off when they got relegated, but you could tell that they were just going to go back down. They didn't have the quality, and I think it's going to be that all over again for Wickham. The way they play is not nice. It's not fancy. They proper physical set pieces, and that's why I think Uche Ikpeazu is a really good signing from Hearts. He is like a more mobile Akinfenwa. He will be the one starting, and I think he could get some goals in as well. And some of the signings they've made, they're more high League One signings. They're not Championship signings. I don't think Tafazoli, Daryl Horgan, Curtis Anderson, I don't think they're those type of players. And I think Wickham, for me, they're going to finish second bottom. But I would really love to see them stay up because I think it'd be a great story.
Yeah.
But I think that's what's too weak. I just can't see it.
I think with Wickham as well, you said about their style of play. I remember watching the playoff final, and it compared their opponent's record in the league to theirs, and they were like 24th for everything, like pass completion. But I don't even know, like shots made, but shots on target or goal.
Yeah.
I don't even know what stats they were. All I remember seeing is looking at the screen and going, flipping out. Like they were rock bottom for every like key stat. And obviously it means nothing in the end because they were the team that got promoted. But I think if they go into the Championship with that game plan, bearing in mind there's other teams in the Championship that already do that, but they have a better squad. Like it's like a Millwall. It's
Millwall,
like
Cardiff, teams like that.
Like a B-Tech Millwall in terms of they'll try it, but there's other teams in the league that do it better. And even the teams that do it better, like Millwall, they don't dispatch teams. You know, it's not often they batter people. So if a team are close to a lock in Millwall, or close to beating Millwall, then for me, they will probably then go and beat Wickham. That's sort of how I see it.
Yeah.
What it looks like with Wickham, to be completely honest, is it looks like they're one of those teams that comes up to the Championship, hoovers up all the top League One talent, knowing they're going to go down, so they can just bounce straight back up to the Championship.
Maybe, but then you're looking at a team like Wickham, and no one expected them to go up. They were like favourites to get relegated from League One, and they ended up going the complete opposite way. So I don't think they're a team that, like we've already spoke about Norwich, how they're prepared. Like they go up and they knew they were going down for that whole season, so they've prepared for the Championship for that whole season. That's why they didn't really make any key signings in the Prem. I think they knew what was going to happen. With Wickham, I feel like it's slightly different. I think they are going to try and stay up, but I think they expect to go down. I think they'd be kidding themselves if they were like, yeah, we're going to stay up. I think they all expect to go down. Obviously, they'll make a fight of it, but I think it will be one of those cases where we'll see them for a year and then they'll disappear into the darkness like Yeovil did. Like Yeovil even in
They're non-league now.
National League, yeah. So I'm not saying Wickham are just going to start going downhill and become, semi-professional, but I definitely don't think we'll see him in the Championship for more than a season.
All right, then. Our final team, then.
Last and final team is the FFP breakers themselves. The team the team that didn't manage to pull a derby. It's Sheffield Wednesday.
Thank you, Mel.
I've got Wednesday finishing 23rd. I had them 20th before. And I didn't think they had a squad good enough to, not be in a relegation battle to begin with. But then, being hit with I think it's -12.
Yeah.
I think it's too much, and I think Sheffield. Yeah.
I think I've got them to finish 22nd because I think even with -12, I think they'll do better than Rotherham and Wickham. I think that Sheffield Wednesday are actually going to have a decent season. But for them, a decent season isn't good enough. We've seen the Championship and the point difference is ridiculous. How, 5 points can be the difference between playoffs and 15th place some seasons. Especially last season. And I went and had a look at Sheffield Wednesday last season and I took 12 points off their tally to see where they would have ended up if it had happened last season. And they ended up in the relegation zone, something like 5 points clear of safety. So unless they better their season last season, but I can't see them staying up. I think 12 points in the Championship is a very big gap. And if you take 12 points off half the teams last season, that leaves them near the relegation zone. I think bearing in mind if it had happened last season, they were down there. Happening this season, they've strengthened, but I don't think they've strengthened enough to make them have an excellent season. Because they need an excellent season or they're going down. They need a good season, and I'm not sure if they're gonna deliver that. So I do see them going down, unfortunately, and it's a shame. It shows how corrupt the EFL are. It's something that everyone knows now. It does seem very much like the EFL versus the teams in the EFL. It doesn't seem like it doesn't seem like they care about the teams in the league. They definitely don't care. But maybe that's a topic for another video.
Yeah.
Probably good to leave that there. But I can't see them staying up. It is a shame, but I've got them in the relegation zone. I hope they prove me wrong though.
Yeah, I've got Sheffield Wednesday bottom. Like everyone else said, I don't need much explanation. I don't think they've got a squad. I don't really rate Gary Monk as much anymore. I don't think, as a whole, the club is good enough with the -12 points. I think they're saying they'll be like a Wigan, where a decent season won't be enough, like Jacob said. So yeah, I think that's wrapped up then.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really weird to see Hillsborough in League One, but
same for the Stadium of Light, isn't it? You've got massive teams in there. When you've got teams like Sunderland in League One and Wickham in the Championship, it's bit weird, but we'll see.
Right. Anyway, we need to end this up now. We'll probably have everyone's tables next to them when it's fully done. But anyway, thank you for watching. We're sorry about the little break we took, but we needed a break. Please like, subscribe, follow the Instagram, the Twitter. It'll all be linked in the description. And we'll see you later.
Bye.